2 weeks before her wedding, Jennifer sat alone in the dim living room, her phone clutched tight. The video from her father still unplayed.
Sweetheart, it's stage 4, pancreatic. The doctors gave me 3 months. I'm not going to be able to walk you down the aisle. I'm so sorry.
The recording froze on his exhausted face, the silence in the room so complete it felt like a held breath.
This can't be real. He was supposed to walk me down the aisle, not say goodbye.
She replayed the message, thumb trembling, hoping the words might somehow change.
He's dying. My father is dying, and I have to postpone the wedding.
The phone slipped from her fingers onto the cushion. Outside the window, the evening light had turned gray.
3 months. That's all I have left with him. How do I plan a wedding now?
She stared at his frozen face on the screen, already mourning, with no reason yet to suspect the diagnosis was anything but terminal. The phone was still damp from her tears when she called Christopher. He answered on the first ring.
Jen, we're postponing. Don't even argue. Your dad needs you, and I'm not going anywhere. We'll reschedule.
He didn't hesitate. Not for a single second. That steadiness was the only thing holding her together right now.
She reached for the notepad on the side table and wrote "postpone wedding" in shaky letters, the ink bleeding slightly into the paper. Then she called her father. It rang until she thought it would go to voicemail. Then his voice came through, fragile as glass.
They're moving me to Patricia's lake house. For hospice, please. No visitors, I can't let you see me like this.
Dad, I don't care how you look. Please, let me come. I need to be with you.
I'm sorry, sweetheart. I just can't. I'll call when I'm stronger. Just let me rest.
He's resting comfortably, dear. The lake air will do him good, but he's not up to visits yet. You understand?
Jennifer set the phone down and stared at the wedding invitation on the coffee table, its elegant cursive now a blur of ink and tears. 6 months passed. The wedding dress hung untouched in her closet, a layer of dust coating the champagne lace.
She was afraid to even touch it, as if touching it meant admitting the wedding might never happen.
Her phone buzzed. Catherine's name flashed, the first call from her sister in nearly 3 weeks. Jennifer propped the phone against a book, and Catherine's tired face appeared on the screen, still in scrubs.
Jen, I've hit a wall. Dad won't let me see his records, and Patricia just says he's resting.
He wouldn't let me visit either. But you're a doctor, Catherine. Shouldn't you be able to talk to his team?
Exactly. No oncologist returns my calls. It's like he's not in the system at all.
A cold knot tightened in Jennifer's stomach. She'd pushed the doubt down for months, but now it was undeniable.
What if he's not dying at all? What would that mean for the last 6 months?
I'm going to find out what he's hiding. I'll call you when I know more.
2 days after the call, Catherine sat alone in her office, the glow of the computer screen sharpening the tired lines on her face. She was reviewing the pre-op list for the next morning, a routine safety check, when a familiar name stopped her cold.
Mark Rowe, scheduled for an outpatient hernia repair. Her father was in this hospital, and he'd told no one.
With a few keystrokes, she pulled his full chart, the screen filled with lab results, referral histories, medication lists, and an empty field where oncology notes should have been.
No CA 1909, no CEA, no biopsy report, 3 years of records, and not a single cancer marker in sight.
She cross-referenced with the oncology department records. No consults, no chemotherapy orders, no oncologist of record.
Stage 4 pancreatic cancer leaves a paper trail you can't hide. This isn't a mistake, it's a lie.
The pre-op bay was empty around her, the hum of the monitors the only sound as she began to connect the pieces.
The hospice at the lake house, the refused visitors, the 3 months to live, it was all a performance. And Jennifer had postponed her entire life for it.
She closed the chart slowly, her next move already forming tomorrow morning in pre-op. She would face her father with the truth she now held. Before confronting Mark head-on, Catherine dialed Patricia's number, her voice carefully even and unremarkable.
Aunt Patricia, it's Catherine. Just checking in. How is Dad managing his medications up there?
She asked the question as casually as she could, but her free hand was already clenched into a fist.
Oh, he just rests mostly. The quiet does him good.
And the hospice team, are they visiting daily? I want to make sure he's not in pain.
The silence that followed was filled with unspoken panic.
He doesn't like strangers in the house, dear. I'm managing just fine.
Catherine ended the call without another question. The hospital parking lot was empty around her.
No hospice nurse. No medication schedule. The lake house wasn't a hospice. It was a hiding place.
She started the car and pulled onto the road. Her decision made, she would confront Mark tomorrow in pre-op and tear every lie apart. The pre-op bay was bright and cold when Catherine entered. Her father already settled on the gurney in a thin gown. She pulled the privacy curtain closed with a metallic scrape that made his head jerk up.
Catherine, what are you doing here? My surgery isn't your department.
No, but this is. I pulled your chart, Dad. 3 years of records. There's no cancer.
The color drained from his face so fast it looked like a physical blow.
That's confidential information. You had no right.
I had every right when my sister postponed her wedding for a lie. Where are the oncology records, Dad?
It's complicated. The doctors, they were wrong. I just needed time.
Time for what? You let her believe you were dying. I'm giving you one chance. Explain it to me right now.
He opened his mouth, but no sound came. In the silence, the monitors beeped like a countdown. The silence stretched until Mark finally lowered his head and spoke, his voice barely more than a rasp.
I couldn't walk her down the aisle to him, Catherine. Not to Christopher, I just couldn't. I never had cancer. I faked the whole thing because I couldn't accept her marrying a black man.
Catherine's jaw locked so tight she felt a muscle spasm in her cheek.
You destroyed 6 months of her life, her wedding, her trust, all because of his skin?
I know it's wrong. I thought if I had a terminal diagnosis, she'd leave him. I wanted more time, hoping she'd change her mind, but she never did, and the lie got out of control.
Catherine stared at him. The father who had taught her medicine now bleeding out shame in a hospital gown.
He's a coward who weaponized a fake illness to justify racial hatred.
She didn't know what was worse, the lie or the reason behind it. But the secret couldn't stay buried. Catherine turned to leave, but Mark's hand shot out and caught her wrist, his grip desperate.
Wait, there's something else, something real. The chart does flag one genuine condition. Early-stage prostate cancer, 6 months ago. Treatable.
She pulled her arm free and reached for the tablet, scrolling through the lab results until she found the flagged PSA levels.
Gleason 6. You've known about this for 6 months and told no one?
Men in our family don't talk about that. I was ashamed.
He faked a terminal illness, but hid a treatable one. The irony was almost unbearable.
The monitors continued their steady beep, indifferent to the two secrets now laid bare between them.
I didn't even tell Patricia. I thought if I ignored it, it might go away. Foolish.
Catherine stood there, one hand gripping the tablet, the truth now tangled in ways she hadn't anticipated. Catherine stepped out of the pre-op bay without another word, her footsteps echoing down the empty corridor. She stopped near a stairwell and dialed Christopher. He answered on the second ring.
Christopher, it's Catherine. I need the truth. How is Jennifer really?
She's not okay, Catherine. Every night, after she thinks I'm asleep, I hear her crying.
Her free hand clenched around the coffee mug she'd carried from the break room, knuckles white.
I uncovered something about my father. Something that will break her heart, but she needs to hear it from him.
If it's something that can bring her back to herself, she needs it, even if it hurts.
6 months of tears, and I'm the one holding the detonator. But the lie has to end. I'll make sure he tells her face to face, or I'll make him pay. Just keep her safe until then.
She ended the call and stared at the trembling surface of the coffee in the mug, a plan already forming. Catherine stood in the doorway of the pre-op bay, her coffee mug abandoned on a counter outside. She stepped in and pulled the curtain closed behind her with a deliberate scrape.
Catherine, please, just let me explain more. I never meant for any of this to.
Here is your only option. You tell Jennifer the truth, all of it, face to face, before the rescheduled wedding.
She set her hospital badge on the bed rail, the photo watching him like a witness.
Or I walk into HR and report the FMLA fraud. You used a fake terminal illness to request medical leave.
She'll hate me forever.
She already hates the lie. What she hasn't decided is whether she can still love the man who told it.
He stared at the hospital badge on the rail, then at his own hands, which had started to tremble.
I'll do it. Give me a few days to figure out the words.
You have until the wedding day, not a minute later.
3 days passed. Mark's phone filled with drafts he never sent, each one a different version of the truth.
How do you tell your daughter that her father is a coward and a liar?
Twice a day, Catherine sent the same message. Clock is ticking. No greeting, no small talk. On the 4th day, he finally typed something he couldn't delete. I need to see you. It's urgent.
Urgent. Not can't wait to see you or let's reschedule. Just urgent. Something was wrong.
She agreed anyway, her reply short and hollow. Okay. When?
Tomorrow afternoon I'll come to you.
Jennifer set the phone down and stared at the front door, as if trying to see through it to the storm approaching.
The man who refused to let me visit for 6 months is suddenly coming to my apartment. Whatever this is, it will change everything.
2 days before the wedding, Mark's car pulled into the lot outside her building, the engine ticking down like a clock. He knocked twice, the sound too quiet. Then a 3rd time, sharper. Jennifer opened the door before the echo faded.
Can I come in?
She moved aside without a word, her bare feet silent on the floorboards. He sat on the very edge of the couch, and she took the chair opposite, the wedding invitation still centered on the table between them. The silence pooled until Mark forced his eyes up to meet hers, then dropped them again as if the light burned.
I wasn't sick, sweetheart. There's no cancer.
Jennifer's hands rested on her knees, motionless, as if she'd been turned to stone.
I faked the whole thing. I couldn't walk you down the aisle to him.
Her face stayed empty, but her fingers curled slowly into her palms.
Because he's black. That's the reason. That's the whole ugly reason. There is one truth in my chart: early stage prostate cancer. I hid it from everyone, even Patricia.
Jennifer's tears finally spilled over, sliding silently down her face, but her expression remained locked in place.
Men in our family don't talk about that. I told no one. I was ashamed.
He lied about dying, but he might actually be sick. The mess of it was unbearable.
I know this doesn't fix anything. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know the whole truth.
The silence that followed was heavier than anything said, filling the room like water.
Before you stand at that altar, you should know exactly who you're not being walked down the aisle by.
She said nothing. Her back was straight as a blade, her hands now fisted in her lap.
I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry.
For 22 minutes he talked, and she listened without a single word, her tears the only movement in the room. Finally, Mark's voice ran out. The silence that filled the room was worse than any accusation. Without a word, Jennifer stood. The wooden chair scraped against the floor, the only sound in the apartment. She walked toward the front door with a measured step, never looking back at the man still hunched on the couch. Her hand closed around the doorknob, and she pulled it open to the dim hallway beyond.
I'm so sorry.
She held the door open, her gaze fixed on the empty hallway, refusing to meet his eyes. Mark stepped through the doorway, the threshold between them now a chasm that words couldn't bridge. He turned back once, but her face was stone, her eyes finally meeting his with nothing behind them. She closed the door. The latch clicked into place, soft and final. Outside, Mark stood alone on the doorstep, the weight of the closed door pressing against his chest like a second heartbeat. Mark's back found the wall beside the door, his legs threatening to buckle. He stared at the cracked concrete, unseeing. A sedan pulled into the lot, engine quiet. Christopher stepped out and froze when he saw the figure on the doorstep. He didn't hurry. He closed the car door with a soft click and walked forward, his eyes never leaving Mark.
I told her everything. She didn't say a single word.
Christopher stopped a few feet away. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes traveled over the broken man in front of him with something like painful recognition. Without a word, Christopher tipped his head toward the car, a silent invitation.
He came to check on her, and instead he found me, the man whose skin I used as a reason to destroy her.
Mark didn't move. The weight of who was offering him grace pinned his feet to the pavement. Christopher waited, his hand resting on the open driver's door. He didn't push, didn't speak, just held the space until Mark's shame relented. Slowly, Mark pushed off the wall and walked toward the car, his footsteps scraping against the quiet afternoon. They stopped beside the sedan. Christopher leaned against the driver's door, regarding Mark with a long, quiet look. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple business card, the kind surgeons keep tucked away for colleagues. He didn't thrust it at Mark. He held it out, waiting, until Mark's trembling hand rose to take it.
She's the best urologist I know. Call her Monday.
Mark's gaze dropped to the card. The name and number blurred as his vision swam.
He knew about the prostate cancer. Catherine must have told him, and he still offered me this.
The card felt heavier than any object had a right to, its edges pressing into his palm. Christopher didn't wait for thanks. He opened the car door and slid behind the wheel, giving Mark the space to process what had just happened. Mark stood frozen, the card pinched between his fingers, a lifeline he hadn't earned. The engine hummed to life, and the car idled, waiting for Mark to get in or walk away. Mark got into the car, closing the door with the gentleness of a man who no longer trusted his own hands. He didn't start the engine. The silence felt safer. It didn't ask him for anything. His eyes found the business card on the dashboard, its edges catching the dying afternoon light.
He called me a reason to destroy his wedding, and I was. That's exactly what I was.
He picked up the card, turning it over as if there might be an answer on the blank side.
He gave me a name because my daughter might still want a father alive. Even after all this.
A tear slid down the side of his nose. He didn't wipe it away. He caught his own reflection in the rearview mirror and looked away, unable to hold his own gaze. He placed the card back on the dashboard, careful, like setting down something fragile. The afternoon light shifted, shadows lengthening, and he still didn't start the engine. Inside the apartment, Jennifer slid down the wall beside the closed door, her knees giving way until she was on the cold floor. The silence of the room pressed in, broken only by the distant hum of a refrigerator cycling on. Her phone buzzed from somewhere on the coffee table, rattling against the wood. Catherine's name glowed on the screen, a call Jennifer didn't have the strength to answer. Her gaze shifted to the wedding dress hanging on the closet door across the room.
2 days. The wedding was in 2 days, and the man who should be walking her down the aisle would not be there.
A single tear traced a clean path down her cheek and dropped onto the back of her hand. She didn't wipe it away. She just let it settle on her skin, small and cold. The phone stopped buzzing. The silence came back heavier than before. The dress caught the last daylight, a ghost in the corner of the room, waiting for a bride who no longer knew what to feel. The morning of the wedding arrived pale and still. In a small room off the venue, Catherine knelt to fasten the last satin button on Jennifer's gown. Jennifer stood before the mirror, her reflection unfamiliar, a bride hollowed out by truth and still standing.
I'll walk alone.
I'll be right there in the front row.
Catherine's voice cracked on the last word, but she didn't look away. Outside the double doors, the aisle stretched between empty chairs soon to be filled. The music began, and Jennifer stepped into the doorway alone, a single figure against the light. Every step was her own. No arm to hold, no father to lean on, only the truth and the man waiting. At the altar, Christopher's eyes found hers and held them, his jaw tight with emotion. Catherine sat in the front row, a single tear sliding into her smile, the weight of the secret now replaced by something closer to hope. The vows were spoken low, words meant only for each other, as if the room had disappeared around them. Christopher's voice held steady, but his hands trembled slightly as he slid the ring onto her finger. A soft murmur rippled through the guests as they kissed, and for a moment the world outside the venue ceased to exist. Later, at the reception, the evening lights slanted through the windows, and the first dance began. Catherine stood near the window, a glass of champagne untouched in her hand, and let her gaze drift outside. Across the parking lot, past the glowing strands of lights, a figure leaned against a familiar car.
He came. Even after everything, he came to watch, but not to enter.
She didn't point him out. She didn't wave. She simply turned back to the music, the happy blur of the dance floor. The card was still on his dashboard, untouched, but knowing he was there meant something had shifted. The night went on, and the bride spun in her husband's arms. An empty chair at the edge of the room, the only reminder of what was missing. A month later, Mark sat in his driveway, the same business card in his hand, its edges soft and worn from 100 times turning it over. He had called the number. The appointments had begun. The card was no longer just a name. It was a schedule, a prognosis, a thin thread of accountability.
He still didn't believe he deserved it, but he kept the appointments.
The screen door creaked, and Patricia stepped out, wiping her hands on a dish towel, her eyes finding him in the chair.
You've been out here a while. Everything okay?
Mark didn't answer right away. He held the card out toward her, the logo barely legible from months of handling.
Christopher gave me this.
Patricia took the card, turned it over, and when she read the specialist's name, her eyes filled with something between sorrow and surprise. She didn't ask who Christopher was. She simply set the card back in his palm and placed her hand on his shoulder. No words, just the weight of a hand, and the first honest thing he'd told his sister in months. On a quiet evening, Jennifer and Christopher sat on their porch swing, the silence comfortable and deep. His arm was around her, and the world spun gently beyond the railing, no longer in a rush. Miles away, Catherine sat in her car after a long shift, the engine off, the parking lot quiet. She allowed herself a small, sad smile, the weight of the past months settling into something she could carry. And at the lake house, early sunlight spilled through the pines and lit the empty porch. The rocking chair where Mark had sat moved slightly, as if a memory had just brushed past it. They would visit, perhaps next summer, perhaps later. Nothing was decided, and that was okay. The cabin stood waiting, the door unlocked, the silence no longer a lie. And somewhere, a worn card rested in a wallet, a call made, a door cracked open that no one could fully close. The light held, then softened. The world kept turning, and the family breathed, apart, but alive.